Good morning, students. Now, today we are going to start the topic Pastoralist. Now, some tribal group were pastoralists and lived by herding and rearing animals. So there were some groups of people in the forest. Some of the tribal people that lived in the forest, they were pastoralists who lived mainly by herding and rearing the animals. Now, they moved according to the seasons and the availability of pasture. So the pastoralists, they moved according to the season and the availability of the food for their animals. Now, when the food resources and the grass of one area were exhausted, they moved on. These included the one Gujjars of the Punjab hills, the one Gujjars of Punjab, the Lambadis of Andhra Pradesh, who reared cattle, the Gadis of Kullu, who were shepherds, and the Bakrwals of Kashmir, who reared goats. Now, these people lived on the outskirts of the forest and sold milk, ghee, and other products. So these tribal people, they lived mainly outskirts of the forest, means just at the outside of the forest, and they mainly sold the milk, ghee, and other products. Now, laborers and agricultural workers. When the forest supplies sank, some tribal people started working as laborers. Now, when the supplies from the forest it got over, the certain group of the tribal people started to work as the laborers. Now, they worked in the field of settled agriculturalists or zamindars. So they worked in the field of some of the zamindars or the agriculturalists. Now, they were also hired by planters as ryots, that is peasants. Further, this tribal people were even hired by the planters as ryots or the peasants. Now, some undertook work in factories and mines. Some did odd jobs like carrying loads. So some of them undertook the work in the factories and mines, while the other did the odd jobs like carrying the loads. Now, the tribal areas were often penetrated by traders and moneylenders called dikus. The traders came to sell their goods at higher prices or in exchange of the forest produce. At times, moneylenders gave loans to tribal people when they needed money. Often these loans were given at a very high rate of interest for making ends meet. The tribal people increasingly depended on the moneylender. Many of them came under heavy debt. As a result, they became bonded laborers. So, in the tribal area was often penetrated, often encroached by the traders and the moneylenders who were called dikus. The traders mainly sold the goods at the higher prices or in the exchange of the forest goods. At the time, the moneylenders, they used to give loan to the people at the higher rate of interest for making the end meet. That means for the tribal people for capturing their lands. Now, in this, the tribal people increasingly depended on the moneylender, and in turn, the tribal people were heavily under the heavy debt, and as a result, they became the bonded laborers. Now, shifting agriculture. Many tribes practiced shift agriculture but did not settle down and continued moving from one place to another. They practiced a special type of cultivation called jhum or shifting cultivation. So many tribes practiced the agriculture but they did not settle down at a place. The type of at a continuous time they continue to move from one place to another place. So this type of practice of cultivation was known as jhum or the shifting cultivation. Now, The jhum was practiced on a small patch of land, mostly in the forest. The cultivators cut the tree tops to allow sunlight to reach the ground. They burned the vegetation on the ground to clear it for the cultivation. The ash, which contained potash, were used to fertilize the soil. Trees were cut and the soil were prepared, then the seeds were scattered. They moved to another land once the crop was ready and harvested. After harvesting, the land was left fallow for several years to restore fertility. Now, so under the jhum agriculture, it was practiced on a small patch of the land, and mainly the cultivators used to cut the top of the trees so that the sunlight could reach the ground. Even they burned the vegetation on the ground and they cleared the land for the cultivation. Further, the ashes of the trees, it was used as the fertilizers, and the trees were cut and the soil was prepared. Then the seed was scattered in the prepared field. Now, further, they moved to another, after they harvested their crop, they used to move to the other piece of the land for the cultivation. Now, after harvesting, they used to leave the land fallow for the several years so that it could restore its fertility. Now, the only way by which they could practice shifting cultivation was by freely moving in the and out of the forest, using them for growing crops. Jhum cultivation was practiced mostly in the northeastern and central India. So the way they did the shifting cultivation was only possible by moving freely in and out of the forest and then using them to grow the crop. Now, jhum cultivation was mainly practiced in the northeast and the central India. Now, settlement agriculturalist. Now, tomorrow I will begin this topic. Thank you.